I'm having a struggle on how to get started today. I don't know. Once we get into it, we'll be into it. But I'm trying to figure out how to get you into it. Religion. Let's talk about religion. How about that? Everybody's favorite subject, right? I've been studying a lot about religion and about the world's religions, and here's what I'm finding out is that there are three main religions in the world, and then there are several that make up less than like 1% of the world. And the three main religions in the world are Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And of that, really, the Jews make up a really small portion of that. The world's pretty much divided between Christians and Muslims. And here's the crazy thing about, I don't need this right this second. We'll get to that. I feel goofy holding stuff. The weird thing about these religions is that they are all passionately believers in the truth. We are all believers in the truth. And when I say the truth, I mean the God, the one living God. And that, you may not realize that, but Christians and Muslims and Jews, we all worship the same God. We all passionate for the same God, and we all entrust ourselves to that same God. And the thing that really brings these ideas down and separates them are religion. It's what we believe about that God, what we believe about how to get to that God, what we believe about the will of that God. And so we have all of these different ideas. Now, the Christians believe that the will of God is to restore mankind to God through Messiah. The Jews believe that the will of God is to restore mankind to God through Messiah. The Muslims believe that the will of God is to restore all of mankind to God through Messiah. Okay? So we're all got this same kind of idea. Now, here's the thing. Jews believe Christians and Muslims are going to hell. Christians believe Muslims and Jews are going to hell. And Muslims believe Christians and Jews are going to hell. Okay? Everybody with me? So we got this issue. And the issue comes down to, in a lot of ways, this issue centers on Messiah. The Muslims' Messiah, Mahdi, word Messiah, the chosen one of God, will return at some point in the future. And when Messiah comes at some point in the future, he will convince the world of Islam. Now, the Jews believe in a coming Messiah, and when Messiah comes, he will convince the world to be Jews. Right? And Christians believe when Messiah comes, he will make the Muslims and Jews Christian. Right? And now a lot of you are saying, well, the difference between the Christians and the Jews is one names their Messiah and the other one doesn't. Christians will name their Messiah Jesus, and Jews say at the coming of Messiah. Okay? Now, you say, well, what's the difference? Well, Christians believe Messiah came. Okay, in what we say, right? we say that Jesus was Messiah and that he came. All right? But, and we always throw the but clause in, but what? Jesus is Messiah, but when he comes back, he'll show everybody, right, that he was Messiah. That seems odd, but that's what we say. Now, religion of Islam is there's a lot of different sects of Islam. As you can imagine, how do we know, or why would we imagine that there would be? Well, there are a few different sects of Christianity. Right? Yeah. Yeah, because Protestants and Catholics are exactly the same, right? The Baptists and the Church of Christ, identical. The Methodists and the Pentecostals are identical. You can't tell them apart. So we all believe the same thing, right? So all Muslims must believe the same thing, right? Well, no, not all Muslims believe the same way either. The Muslims believe that there are events that have to take place to bring back Messiah. Crazy Muslims. The events that must take place to bring back Messiah are that, well, right now they're saying that the king of Saudi Arabia must die, that the ruler of Iran must then extinguish Israel, and that will bring about the return of Mahdi to the world, to show everybody else in the world to live under the world of Islam, that we will all be united, we'll all be peaceful and loving, and everybody will believe the same thing, right? So there are events, and this is why, and I hope you understand that what's going on in our world today has nothing to do with politics. That it has everything to do with religion. And the reason that we can't have peace in the Middle East is because you have people whose core foundations and what they believe to be absolute truth and cannot be shaken are different. For a Muslim to say, that's fine, let's let Israel have their way, would be for the Christians to say, hey, let's elect us a Muslim president. It would be for us Christians to say, you know what? We think Jesus is Messiah, but that's not important to us. We'll allow you to do and bring whatever religion you want to here and establish America as a Muslim nation. Would that be okay with everybody? Well, probably not. Why not? Well, because we believe more in our God than what someone would tell us, right? We actually have received truth that God is and has restored the world through his Messiah, Jesus. That's the core of who we are as Christians. And just because you change our national religion, is that going to change the fact that Jesus is Messiah? No, not for us. But we're asking the Muslims to say, you know what? We know that you believe in the Prophet Muhammad and that he recited the absolute truth, the absolute word of God. But you can forget all of that and let's just have peace. When that goes against everything they believe in. Okay, we want everybody to come to our side because we're right. Right? Here's the crazy thing, the Jews are just caught in the middle of all of this and they think everybody's crazy. So we have these religions going on in our world and everybody believes that what they believe is the absolute truth and they're convinced of it and most are willing to die over it. Well, let me take that back. Most Jews and Muslims are willing to die over it. Christians are kind of take it or leave it. You know, we're good. Y'all have y'all's thing going on. When we die, we'll go to heaven. Don't worry about it. You know, we're not so gung-ho about it. You know, it's not a big deal with us. But for them, it's a way of living. It's not just something they believe. It dictates how they live. It dictates culture. Now, we Christians, we don't let our religion dictate our culture. We live how we want to live, right? So if I'm an innocent bystander or just sitting out in the world and looking around and I would say, wow, now these Muslims, they embrace this idea of truth and it dictates every part of their life. Every part of their life. And they are consumed with the idea that it should consume the entire globe. Jews are so consumed with God and their religion is that they believe that everything is there to destroy or taint or make unclean their belief systems. And so they shut off everything in the world. There's not a whole lot of outreach because they believe really in the supernatural intervention of God when Messiah comes. And Christians, they embrace some good ideas about God. They embrace a man who taught peace on earth, a man who taught forgiveness, a man who taught that love was a better way to live, but they don't really live by it. So as just backing up and saying, what is truth? This is the series we're in, what is truth? If I just back up and say, what is truth? Where's there more evidence? Take what we've been talking about completely out. Taking the supernatural revelation from God out, and I just back up and look, what do I come to? I mean, honestly, do I embrace with my lifestyle, how I live, do I embrace the ideas of Christianity? I would say in America, we more embrace the ideas of some type of materialism God, some type of feel-good, self-consumed, all-about-me kind of religion. I'm in as long as I can get what I want out of it, but if it starts to affect how and what I do in my life, then, I don't embrace it that strongly, right? How do I know that? Well, I watch TV. I go to Walmart. I eat. I exist in the world, and I see it everywhere. And I see all of these things going on. Now, this idea of living how you believe, that tells me everything you want to know about what I embrace as truth. Do you understand that? That I can't say that this is absolute truth and then live some other way, because how I live and what I do tells more about me than what I say, right? Jesus said to his apostles, he said, you'll know people by their fruit. You'll know the tree by the fruit that it produces. You can't go like you can to Home Depot and look at the tree and it's got a tag on it that says apple tree, right? Does that make it an apple tree? Does the tag make it an apple tree? No. What makes it an apple tree? Well, apples. I can call it whatever I want to, but if it produces apples, then the truth is it's an apple tree. So we can call ourselves whatever we want to call ourselves. Man, you can call yourselves liberal, you can call yourselves conservative, you can call yourselves in, you can call yourselves out, you can call yourselves Christian, you can call yourselves Judeo-Christian, you can call yourselves whatever you want. It doesn't matter, okay? What matters is, what do I embrace as truth? What do I embrace as truth? What dictates how I live? It's an important thing because looking on from the outside, you can tell a Jew, right, by the way they live. A real Jew, one who embraces Judaism. You can tell a real Muslim by the way they live, right? Can you tell a Christian by the way they live? Is there anything in our lives that make us live a certain way? Well, that's something we need to ask ourselves. Now, when you bring up all of these things on who's right and what's wrong and how does all this work, what I found about these religions is religion is strong in one basic area. We've made it into the idea of winners and losers, right? Well, yeah, somebody has to be right, somebody has to be wrong, somebody wins, somebody loses. Now, more than anything, we hope we're on the winning side, right? Well, yeah. I mean, you really hope Christianity's right? You hope it is, because if the Muslims are right, guys, there's issues. If the Jews are right, there's issues, right? Okay, so we hope that we're right. So religion presents us with options and choices. So we choose, and what most of these religions have to do are with what? Think about what religion is about. Most religion is about how to get to heaven. I mean, when we whittle it all down, that's all we're talking about, is how to get to heaven. Or, more important than how to get to heaven is how to avoid hell, right? Because we very much dislike the idea of a torture for eternity scenario, right? Okay, so we want to be right. And we want to go to heaven, right? Y'all are like, where is he going with this, right? Okay. All right. So the way we get to heaven is through Messiah. The way we're given life is through Messiah. So a lot of this boils down to and backs up to, again, Messiah. What about Messiah? What is Messiah? How? And Messiah, if you're not familiar, Messiah would be the anointed one of God, the chosen one of God. And he would be the Redeemer, the one who comes and restores God's children to him. And that's true whether you're Muslim or Christian or Jew, right? It doesn't matter, because it's still the Redeemer of God that's going to restore people to God. So it's really important on what we think or what we believe about Messiah. So let's whittle this one down. All right. Now, Christians, we believe that Messiah has come, right? Yes. Okay. And we believe that the Jews are wrong because, well, they're still waiting on Messiah, right? Crazy Jews. Still waiting on Messiah. We believe the Muslims are wrong because they are waiting on Messiah, Mahdi, right? They're waiting on Messiah. So the reason we base our beliefs on the idea that we are in and they're out is because we embrace the fact that Messiah has come. We name Messiah Jesus, right? We call him Jesus Christ. The word Christ actually means the anointed one of God or Messiah. So we actually name Jesus Messiah, right? All right, now this is important because if I claim Jesus is Messiah, then Messiah comes and he teaches a way of living, right? And that way of living is a way of love. Jesus says love is a better way to live. Unless you're talking about the Muslims, because then it's okay to hate, right? Christians hate Muslims and Jews. Jews hate Christians and Muslims, and Muslims hate everybody. So it's like, no, is that the way it is? I mean, look, this is honest zone. Is that the way it is? Yes, that's the way it is. Is that the way it should be? Well, no. No, it's not the way it should be, but the fact is that's the way it is. Which tells you a lot about all of these religions, right? Because we all worship one God, the same God. All right, so Jesus is our Messiah. Okay, so let's look at this. Jesus is our Messiah. My question for you today is, how? How is Jesus Messiah? These are some things you're going to need to explore. What do we know about Messiah? When he comes, what? He restores heaven and earth, right? Messiah comes and he restores heaven and earth. Now that's true whether you're Jew, whether you're Christian, or whether you're Muslim, right? So we would say that that's true. When Messiah comes, he will restore heaven and earth. He will restore God in his creation. When Messiah comes, what else happens? He establishes God's kingdom on earth, the kingdom of David. He establishes the kingdom of David on earth forever. God's kingdom is also known as what? The kingdom of heaven. God's the king of heaven, right? And his kingdom then would be the kingdom of heaven. So when Messiah comes, he establishes God's kingdom forever. When Messiah comes, he comes and establishes God's temple. Okay? He establishes the temple of God as the holiest place on earth. These are straight out Jewish teachings, okay? They're from our Old Testament, and they're just straight out Jewish teachings. When Messiah comes, he comes and he sets people who are imprisoned free. He gives sight to the blind. He gives freedom to the captives. He heals and mends up the brokenhearted, right? When Messiah comes, you might remember this one. When Messiah comes to earth, when Messiah comes, the lion will lay down with the lamb, right? So he is the Prince of Peace. Remember that? Remember that time? No. And so we got all these things going on about Messiah and when he comes. Okay, so my question for you then is Jesus Messiah? Okay, then we have to say, if Jesus is Messiah, how? Because do you understand? I need you to understand that when Jesus came, the very next event that happened after Jesus was crucified was that the temple of God was completely torn down. That not only did God not gather all of his people into one unity, the way that was thought was that God would gather the Jewish nation from all over the world, but that not only did that not happen, but that the Jews were actually dispersed to the whole world. So God's temple's torn down, the Jews are dispersed, Messiah dies, right? He doesn't become king. When Jesus came, the Romans were in power, and when Jesus left, the Romans were in power. Correct? Yeah, history. Just look it up. Historychannel.com. You can find it. Okay. So do you understand where I'm coming from? That if I'm a Jew or I'm a Muslim and you're saying Jesus is Messiah, and everybody knows what Messiah is going to do when he comes, right? Everybody knows what Messiah is going to do when he comes. Then you understand why Muslims and Jews believe Christians are absolutely insane. Right? Okay, so my question is Jesus Messiah? And if so, how? Is Jesus Messiah? And if he is, how? How is it that Jesus can be Messiah? Maybe things aren't like we think, right? Is it possible that things aren't always what we think they are? In the Bible, in John chapter 4, now I know, I'm no fool, I know that you can't use the Bible to prove the Bible. I know you can't use Jesus' teachings to prove Jesus, right? That doesn't make sense. But I come with a bias, so I'm going to tell you right up front. I am convinced to the core of who I am, Jesus is Messiah. Okay? So, in John chapter 4, Jesus is having a conversation with a Samaritan woman. And this Samaritan woman believes like everybody else believes. And she is saying, that God has to be worshipped over on the mountain, at the temple. And Jesus answers her like this. He says, "Woman, believe me, the hour..." This is John chapter 4, verse 21. "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you worship the Father. You worship that which you do not know. We worship what we know, for salvation is from the Jews." Listen to what Jesus says. "The hour is coming and is now here when true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father is seeking such people to worship him." Now, this next sentence is quite an amazing statement. It says, "God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and in truth." God is spirit. Is it possible that Messiah comes and the majority of the world miss it? How could that happen? What if it was in spirit? What if what Jesus did wasn't physical, but spirit? Would that make sense? If God is spirit, then God came to restore the world. He sends His Messiah to restore the world. Then how would Messiah restore the world to God? In spirit, right? I mean, I'm asking you, and these are things you're going to have to determine for yourself. So I'm going to give you an answer. How about that? So God is spirit. Then what part of the world is God restoring to Himself? That's an interesting question, isn't it? Because if Messiah has to do all of this list of things, if that's what the purpose of Messiah is, then I have to ask the question, is Jesus Messiah? Because, first of all, is there suffering in the world? Is there death in the world? Is there disease in the world? Is Jesus Messiah? Will Messiah end suffering, death, and disease? Yeah, the Old Testament says that He will. It says that Messiah will end suffering, death, disease. Right? So do you understand now why Jews look at you like you've lost your mind? And our answer to them is, well, you just got to believe. Why? Well, the New Testament says so. Tell them to open their Bible and you'll show them. You have to understand, Jews don't have a New Testament. Okay? You can't use the New Testament, right? Because they don't have one. But in the Old Testament, Messiah would come and there would be no more suffering. He would bring peace. Actually, the Bible actually says that in the Old Testament, when Messiah comes, that the weapons will be pounded into plowshares and we'll be taught war no more. Are there wars? Is Jesus Messiah? Then how? So what did He come to resolve and restore to God? What part of the world did He come to restore to God? John chapter 14. This is heavy for me. I love John, like 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. It's awesome because Jesus is about to go to the cross. He's about to die. He knows his mission that He came here for is coming up, and so He starts talking to those that were closest to Him, and He's just pouring His heart out. This is my favorite part of the whole Bible. But in John chapter 14, verse 15, He says, "If you love Me, you will keep My commandments, and I will ask the Father, and He will give you another helper to be with you forever, even the Spirit of truth." I'm going to send you the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive. And when He means world, He means the world system. Okay? The world cannot receive it. Because it neither, what? Sees Him or knows Him. The world at large can't embrace this because they can't see it. But you know Him. You know Him. The world at large can't embrace this because they can't see it. The Muslim, the Jew, the Hindu, the world at large can't embrace this. Why? Because they can't see it. But you can see it. You know, right? You know Him. You know Him. How do you know Him if you haven't seen Him? How do you know Jesus is Messiah if you haven't seen Him? If it didn't physically look like we said it was going to look, how do you know? We've experienced that Jesus is real. God isn't seen. Has anybody ever seen God? I haven't. But I know God's real. How do I know God's real? I've experienced Him. He says this, you know Him, for He dwells with you. Cool, huh? You get this? This is something Howard taught me years ago. Unbelievable. His wisdom is off the charts. Who was with them? Who was with them? Who was with the disciples? Jesus was. Good, man. Somebody's listening. All right. Jesus was with the disciples, right? He is with you and will be in you. Okay, who? The Spirit of truth. Who was the truth, though? We just read this last week. I am the way, the truth, and the life, right? I am the truth. The Spirit of truth is with you now. Who is with them? And will be in you. Right? Listen to what he says. Now, this is crazy because it seems like he's talking about somebody else, right? Yes, you can just answer. If it seems like it, that's what I'm asking. I'm not asking for right or wrong. It says this. It says, I will ask and the Father will give you a helper to be with you forever, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it neither sees Him nor knows Him. You know Him, for He dwells with you and will be in you. I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. Huh. Now what about that? What about that? I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you. Yet a little while and the world will see me no more, but you will see me because I live, you also will live. In the day you will know that I am in the Father, and you are in me, and I in you. Listen how he ends up. And I will love him and manifest myself to him. I will love you and manifest myself to you. Now, manifest, most of us are like, well, what that means? Manifest means to be made known as a reality, right? I will make myself known to you. As in relationship. As in, Jesus is real even if he's invisible. God is spirit. The Spirit of God, the truth of God is spirit. Right? And we worship. We can only worship. We can't worship him in this realm. I can't physically worship God. Right? If I had to physically worship God, then I got to construct a temple. And because, have you read the Old Testament? There's only one way to physically worship God. We erect a temple. We go through a lot of rituals. We slaughter things. We sacrifice things. We worship God in that way in the physical realm. That's why when the Messiah comes, the temple of God will be the most precious place on earth. Right? What did Jesus say, though? He said, his disciples, they're walking in Jerusalem and they're like, wow, man, that temple is awesome. Unbelievable. They're just in awe, just shocked. Amazing, amazing just to see the temple. And Jesus said, tear down the temple and I'll build it again in 3 days. Okay? Is the temple of God the holiest place on earth? Well, it's torn down. There's only one wall left, a little piece of it. How can that be the holiest place on earth? It's what? It's spirit, right? The temple is. Why? Because Jesus is and He's the temple. And He says, I will make my abode among you, within you. And then in the New Testament, He goes, don't you know that you yourselves are the temple? Why? What makes us the temple? The Spirit of God in us, right? Okay, are we starting to figure out now? I mean, are you starting to see all of these things, right? Now, let me ask you a question. Anybody ever seen the Wailing Wall on TV? Pictures or been there, right? The Wailing Wall, the temple wall that's still standing. The holiest place on earth, right? To who? The temple. They're still the holiest place on earth. Why don't Christians go to the Wailing Wall and wail? We don't need to, right? Because the Spirit has manifested itself, made itself known to us. The reason we do and live and believe and are committed to what we are is because the Spirit has been manifest or made known to us, right? So let me ask you some serious questions, food for thought. If this is all true and God is Spirit, right? And Messiah said, the world at large won't see me anymore, but you will know me, you will see me, right? My question is, where is Jesus? Where's Jesus? Okay. Is Jesus Messiah? How is Jesus Messiah? So He accomplished all that Messiah came to accomplish, right? Did He or not? Did He fail? I actually heard this on Easter maybe last Easter, Easter before. I was driving to church and there was a pastor on the radio and he was a big time pastor in Dallas, big church. And he said, when Jesus comes back, He'll get it right. To which we say, oh! Right? My question is, did He say what we all think? I want to ask you something, and this is something that we need to think through. We need to have revelation of, because this cannot be truth to you unless it's revealed to you. You can't be taught these things, okay? My question for you is, where's Jesus? Is Jesus Messiah? Did Messiah accomplish everything that He was supposed to? Did Jesus get it right? And if He did, the question I have to wrestle with is, how? How is there no more sickness? How is there no more disease? How is there no more suffering? How is there no more war? How is it that we are in right standing with God? How is it that all of creation has been restored? Those are good questions, right? Now, a lot of you guys are starting to get that hair on the back of your neck. You know, you're starting to get that weird, funky feeling. And you're not liking the things that are being shown to you, okay? Trust me when I say I understand. But what you have to do is you have to resolve some things with God as He teaches you and shows you. If you enter into a learning experience with your Creator and you have already determined what you're going to allow yourself to be shown, you're done. You might as well stop to waste everybody's time. If God starts showing you things and you think you're going crazy, you might be on the right track. Because Jesus' message was repent. Now that word repent means you're thinking wrong. Change the way you think. Think differently. It's not like you think it's going to be, okay? I want you to understand that there's some serious questions that we have to look at. But the foundational question that we have to resolve to embrace the truth of Christianity over the truth of Islam, or the truth of Judaism, or the truth of Hinduism, or the truth of Buddhism. The thing we have to resolve has to do with Messiah and what you truly believe about Messiah. Now, these things are important. They're important to us. Let me show you just one thing so you can start to understand what I'm talking about. I believe Jesus is Messiah, absolutely Messiah. There is no way, no how anyone could ever convince me any other way, because I have relationship. I have manifestation of the Spirit of God dwelling in me, with me, guiding me, leading me, and teaching me. So I embrace Jesus as Messiah. That's my bias. So I come to a verse and it says, there'll be no more suffering. There'll be no more children dying young. They will live to be old. Now I look around and I see it all the time. So now I have a struggle, right? Either Jesus is Messiah or not. Or maybe I just think wrong. So I resolve that Jesus is Messiah. And if you don't resolve that Jesus is Messiah, you're going to launch from the wrong launch pad. That's all there is. If you resolve that Jesus is Messiah, then you have a foundation in which to go exploring. Does that make sense? All right. So how is there no more suffering? So it's simple. Who am I? Am I a physical body or am I a spirit? Am I a soul? I'm a soul, right? We know that, right? Because we know that someday this body will die, correct? Yeah, 100%. All y'all are dying. You know that? You're all dying. You're all in your last days. Okay. Now, you know that you're a soul, right? Your mind, your will, your emotions, who you really are. You know what I found? Is that in my mind, will, and emotions, who I really am, I'm the same. But like my body seems to be getting old, like wearing out, breaking down. Has anybody noticed that? Yeah, it's weird. But in our minds, man, I'm a spry chicken, you know? Yeah, we're still young, youthful, man, passionate, driven, all those things. then our bodies start wearing down, right? In my soul, can I get sick? Can I have pain? Can I suffer in my spirit, in my soul? See, my body gets sick and it's dying, but I like this writer, Paul, in the New Testament. He says things like, as my body's dying, I'm being more alive every day in the spirit, right? So our souls, our spirits, which are going to exist forever, in that I'm growing and maturing and learning and becoming and getting more healthy and more alive every day. But in my physical body, I'm struggling and suffering and dying. I experience loss and pain and hurt and those types of things, right? See, now I didn't live before Jesus, but I'm assuming before Jesus there was an issue with that because the world hadn't been restored. There was this place called Hades, and Hades was the abode or the dwelling place of the departed soul, right? But when Messiah comes, He restores all things to God, right? So we would say now on this side of Messiah coming, that when I die, I go to be in the arms of Jesus, right? I am fully alive in the spiritual realm. I become completely aware of God's kingdom, of everything that's going on. Correct? So when I see these verses, I say there'll be no more sickness. That's good. Is it true? It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. There'll be no more death. Is that true? It's absolutely true. There'll be no more suffering. Is that true? It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. See, God is spirit, and His Messiah came and restored the world to Him. And that's the truth. And those are the things we've got to work out. Those are the things we've got to resolve. If we don't, if we continue to look at the worldview with the same eyes that everyone else does, that the Jew does, that the Muslim does, that all of these things, if we continue to look at our worldview that way, then there's no way we can hang on with faith. My family's going through just a hard time right now. It's a very sad time. And to be honest with you, if my worldview was different, these would be the times where you would say there is no God. Now, I'll be honest with you. This would be the time you'd say, God doesn't care. He's abandoned us. He's left us. He doesn't hear prayers. He doesn't answer prayers. Where is He? These are the things that I would be asking right now. And in my flesh, I want to. God, I've given You my whole life. Why? Everything we do is for You. We've given everything we are to building Your kingdom, to reaching the world, to spreading Your kingdom, to sharing the good news of the kingdom of heaven. Our desire is to love everyone and to minister to everyone. Our goal is to make your lives better. And that's what we want to do. That's all we want to do. God, where are You when we need You? Maybe you've been through similar struggles. Maybe you're in the middle of similar circumstances. Maybe with your jobs or with your health or with whatever. If I have a physical worldview, then I can argue the case that God doesn't care. But God is spirit, and true worshipers worship in spirit and truth. See, there's a reality that I'm fully aware of. There is a truth that I know that not everybody knows. And that's that God does love us and that He has restored all things. And that this world, no matter if we live to be 100 or we live to be 6, is temporary. And that our physical bodies are going to wear out. and they will return to the same dust that they came from. But who you are will never. God loves you. He's restored you. He's taken your pain. He's taken your sorrow. He's taken your hurt. We in this world, we miss people we lose. We hurt each other. We fight with Muslims and Jews. We fight with people who don't believe like us. We fight with Democrats. You know, whatever. But this is temporary stuff. When we become alive in God, in Him and Him in us, and the reality is the realm that we can't see. And that Messiah has restored that to God, and that everything is as God intends it to be in that realm. Then I live different. I have hope that others don't. I have views that others don't. I have perspective that others don't. I'll be 100% honest with you. I open my mouth all the time and get in a lot of trouble, and that's all right. But here's my view. I don't need Jesus to come back because He came. I don't need some type of cataclysmic world destruction. Do you realize all religions have that in common? They all have the world coming to a fiery end, a disastrous end, a cataclysmic, just destructive end. Well, I don't need that because, like, Jesus is real to me. I mean, He's real. He's here. I hear all the time, well, when Jesus comes back, He'll show those Jews and He'll show those Muslims. Well, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Let me state that. Can everybody hear me? I don't know what happens. You don't either, so don't look at me like that. You don't either. But there is a reality that I live in right now. There is a reality that I live in right now, and that is that Jesus, all the Jesus that I know, all the Jesus that I need is here with me. He's here with me. Do you realize God wants to dwell in us? I don't need there to be a physical God somewhere else. How much more precious is God there than here? If you had your choice, listen to me, this is a valid question. If you had your choice, had you rather be Jesus, be physical and real, sitting on a throne in Jerusalem on the Temple Mount, or in me? Which would you choose? See, I'd rather have an intimate, personal, manifested relationship with Jesus than one where I could run and hide from Him. I encourage you today to ask questions. Ask these questions. Listen to me. If these questions keep you up tonight, and especially this question, who's right? The Jews, the Muslims? Because let me tell you something, in an intellectual argument, you're going to lose. If you don't believe me, you go have a conversation with a Muslim, and when all you can come back at them with is, well, you just got to believe, you're going to lose an intellectual argument. What we root our foundation in is truth, and it is manifested truth, revealed, received truth. And when you receive that, it can't shake you. If you go and you analyze the Islamic religion, and you analyze Hinduism, and you analyze Judaism, and it makes you scared to go to sleep tonight because you just don't know who's right, you need to experience the reality of who Jesus is. You've joined a Christian religion, okay? And joining a Christian religion is no different than joining any other religion. But becoming of Christ changes the core of who I am. It starts to produce different fruit on the tree. Does that make sense? All right, you guys stand up with me. I want to pray for you.